Good evening, folks. Good evening to those of you who are joining us live, and hello to folks who are tuning in after our stream. Thank you very much for joining. I'm here joined by my friend Chris, Kilo 2, Charlie, Juliet, Bravo, and Tim, November 9, Sierra Alpha, Bravo. Tim has just exited stage left. He'll be back with us in just a moment here. But thank you very much for tuning in. And tonight, we're going to talk a little bit about Field Day because it's just around the corner. It's weekend after next. And of course, this is my favorite event on the ham radio calendar, bar none. Well, we'll start off with you, Chris. What's going on in your world?
Well, let's see. It's the weather's finally breaking here in Connecticut. I'm sure it is up your way, too. So that's been good. It's been nice getting outside, and I'm actually tempted just for fun to just set up the 817 out on my porch just to have it on, and just listen around. It doesn't have to be a particular event. It's okay to just turn your radio on, tune around, try to make contacts, right? So that's in the works. I also have all the material I need to put together a fan dipole for 12, 17, and 30 meters. That's a project that I've been kicking around for a while. I finally got all the components I need for it. So
wait. What do you? I had to let the dogs in too.
That's all right.
What was that? You're doing a work bander?
Yep, for 12, 17, and 30. And just like one of those, like it's like parallel. It is a fan dipole, so it's like parallel elements. Yeah, so I was just kind of noodle around with it, see if I can get it to work. And I don't have an antenna right now specifically for the work bands. I've got a long OCF, and I know I can get some of them attuned to it, and it kind of works. But I was like, no, hey, it's a fun project. It's easy.
Well, Gaston and I have been working on. I've always wanted. I did a work bander. I did a linked work bander a long time ago, and nobody noticed. So I never came back to it or anything like that. Oh. I've been playing around with the idea of like a linked NFET for the work bands. So 12, 17, and a 30.
Yeah.
So that's coming.
Good.
El Rico Habano, by the way.
Oh, that's nice.
Before we went live, Chris and Tim started talking about cigars. They're both cigar smokers. I don't smoke at all, so I'm out of the loop on that one. But that's a good one, is it, Tim?
I like it. I like a heavier, stronger.
Yeah, I like a lighter, like a Connecticut wrapper.
Yeah, like the Macanudas are good for that. They were never strong enough. They were never strong enough for me. But I spent a long time looking for cigars with heft, and not too big either. I hate like big cigars like Churchills and stuff like that, and torpedoes and whatnot. But your I forget what they call this. It's what is it? There's a Corona, and what's above a Corona? It's like a Toro, I think, or something like that.
Maybe, yeah.
So yeah, that's kind of where I'm at. With
like about a 6-inch, 5.5, 6 inch.
5.5 is just what they used to call a dog walker kind of thing, but a little bit longer.
Dog walker.
That's it. It lasted long enough to walk the dog.
Yeah.
Oh, jeez. That's hilarious. Okay, we should probably get this conversation back to radio. Just saying.
Well, I was going to say, would it be okay if we did a cigars and radios stream?
Why not? Why not?
Jeez. So Chris, and so fan dipole is up. It's working well. I'm sorry.
I have all the stuff now, and I just have
so you're building it.
Yeah. I want to get like I'm going to do a rough, using the old 468 over F formula and get a rough dimensions on it. I'm kind of looking around a yard whether it's going to go up as a V or as a flat top. I just got to figure that out. So.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
and you certainly have some good space to do that with, and some natural supports with those trees back there.
We do. We got plenty. Yeah.
Oh, very cool. Hey, Tim, what's going on in your neck of the woods? What's happening in the world of N9 SAB antennas?
Well, just busy, as usual.
Yep, still,
it's becoming a thing.
Still going full steam ahead.
Real excited about Field Day.
Are you? Are you going to be doing something for Field Day?
I'm going to try. I picked up one of these, right, for fun. So I might try and get out and do some 5-watt CW or something out in the backyard for a little while.
Wow.
Yeah.
Very nice. Have you turned it on yet?
No, as you can see.
Okay.
I haven't even.
Oh, okay.
I don't listen. I get up. I have coffee, I make antennas, and then I go to bed.
Yep. No, fair enough.
Which is cool. I mean, don't get me wrong.
Yep, good problem to have.
No one's complaining. But yeah, so I picked up one of these, and I figured I forget this does 80, 40, 30, 20.
Wow.
Yeah, okay.
Wow, that's a lot in that little box.
80, 40, 30, 20. Yeah, I think so.
Nice combination of bands.
So I might even actually I might even do my own work band thing on field day just to.
So it won't be a field day activation. It'll just be a playing around with the radio.
No, I'm not going to go through all the thing, keep the log, and do all the stuff. And I mean, no, I'm talking about just putting stuff down and going out in the backyard for an hour.
Okay. Good. I imagine
I don't get
rig.
I don't get to actually operate the radio anymore. So I do what I can. I keep it on.
I get it. I get it. Absolutely. So I'm looking at that rig and I'm thinking that'll run all day on a small battery, won't it?
Oh, for sure. For sure. I got a little 12 or 10 or 12 amp hour lithium, and I'll just go with that. Well, they make a package that there's a 3D printed thing that slides on the back. So it's like a little collar and you've got the battery pack. But I had seen it done, at least I think from what I saw, they were doing it with like double A's.
Mm-hmm.
And I wanted to do something a little bigger. So I might come up with something that takes this and then the battery and does some stuff.
Hey, I know a guy who's got a 3D printer who could do something like that.
Yeah, I know that guy too.
It looks a lot like the one behind you.
2 3D printers. Right. Yeah. And and I might take it digital just for fun too. See if I can get something out of that.
Yeah, there you go.
Something small that I can play around with. So that's what's going on.
Very cool. Good stuff. All right. Hey, listen, we got some people who are leaving comments already so far. Hey, we got Philip KA4KOE pre-ordered an FXCR. Won't arrive in time for field day. Plan on using the FT897D. Well, that's a pretty good choice. With heavy emphasis on CW. Go ahead, Tim.
So Philip is going QRP. Is that what I'm hearing?
Is the FXCR QRP rig?
I think it's 20 watts. I don't know.
Yeah,
it's 20.
Not technically QRP.
Right.
QRP tops out at if he's doing CW, then that would be 5 watts, right?
Right.
Yeah.
I'm sure maybe you can dial them down.
You know what though? I used to be like that. 5 watts is QRP. 5 watt CW. That's real ham radio. I don't care anymore. You're either running 100 watts. Or if you're less if you're 20 or less, I mean, all the radios that are out now, 20 watts, 10 watts, it's all QRP, dude. To me,
I get it, and it's a mindset. I'm sort of siding with you on that one, Tim.
20 watts. 20 watts. That's what I thought.
Oh, all right. So he's going to activate with a local club. Well, that'd be a lot of fun, and you have a lot of hands there to give you a little bit of help with stuff, and everybody pitches in, and it's less work for everybody and maybe a little bit more fun for everybody as a result compared to the kind of schlepping that I have to do for field day. And Philip says he hasn't done it for about 7 years. And big solar again. I hope so. The bands have been kind of wonky.
Yes.
So, if high bands are open.
Was there a solar player recently?
I think there may have been a couple of weeks back.
Yeah, maybe.
So if the high bands are open, that just changes the nature of field day completely.
Now I wish they had one of these for 17, 12, 10.
Yeah, higher bands.
That would be cool. So I'm thinking about one of those little FX 2020s or whatever they are.
What the 2020 like I have?
No, what's he talking about? The FX?
The FXCR
or something like that. FXCR.
Yeah, off the top of my head, I can't picture that one.
It's the old BG 820. Remember the Chinese guy who was making these? They were selling them.
Oh, I know what you mean now. Yeah,
they were a 3-bander, weren't they?
So for the life of me, I can't.
I guess I'm thinking of that first generation of them.
Hang on a second. You guys keep talking. I'll look it up.
Yeah. Okay. All right, so that I just want to go through some of these comments. So Scout75, hey, thanks for joining us, Scout. Hello to you too. And let me see, John John, VE5 from Saskatchewan. Fantastic. The Rough Riders are off to a good start. VE5JHN. Welcome to the show. K6KWI. Thanks for joining us. David Vaughn, QRP. Funny how things change. Yeah. Right. All right. What else we got? So Philip weighs in again. 20 watts. He's confirming it's a 20-watt rig. He played with man packs for a long time, and those are 20 watts. I guess that's it. The military, I guess, standardized on 20 watts as being an optimal power for the field, which is very telling. You know, for a lot of people who feel that they have to run POTA with 100 watts, the fact that the military and a lot of commercial radios, and reading up about the SGC HF rigs, they're sort of saying the same. They were saying the same thing while they were in business.
Interesting.
Sorry.
I wonder if it had to do with like battery consumption and stuff like that.
Oh, I imagine. Yeah, I imagine it was a trade-off.
Yeah, and if you have a good antenna, you're fine.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Okay, so K6KWI back in a solo field day from a local state park. Hey, that's my speed. Yeah, good luck with that. Have fun. FT891, solar powered. Hey, come on back and let me know how big a battery you're running with that one. I'd be interested. So Philip's back in 400 watt mil spec solar. Okay, so he's got the solar backup system.
He's got his own YouTube channel too, and he does a lot of like little short. They're not YouTube shorts, but they're short videos, and you can go through and you can see his solar setup, which is actually pretty cool. But he's running the 897 too, and it was all solar.
Yep.
But he likes to do 100 watt CW, which I don't understand, but I guess it's cool.
Hey, you know, if you've got the juice to do it, you're going to be heard by a few more people for sure. Hey, we got John Frost. Greetings from Massachusetts. Kilo Bravo 1, Tango Alpha Charlie. Hey, John, thanks for joining us. Wayne, Victor Alpha 3, Fox Mike Bravo. Thank you for tuning in. And then Philip's back. How much battery POGS had to carry versus link reliability? So I guess what he's talking about is the military application there.
He's speaking engineer. I don't know. Can you translate that?
Yeah, he can talk technical pretty good, can't he? Neil, K6 KWI 12 volt. This is for his running 100 watts. 12 volt, 12 amp hour.
Yeah,
with 80 watts from the solar.
Whoa.
Yeah, I'm thinking that's an undersized battery for a 100-watt application.
Well, with the right controller, though, you'd be fine.
Maybe. Now he's at kilo 6, so if he's in California, he's getting full sun blasting down all day long. That could be a different issue. That could help certainly. But the rule of thumb, and I'm trying to remember it. Sorry for blanking a little bit here. Is that the amp hours on your battery should be the same or preferably higher than the number of amps the rig will draw at that power level. So if the 891, for example, is drawing, I think it draws something around 15 amps, if I remember correctly, when you're transmitting on at 100 watts, then you should be running no less than a 15 amp hour battery on that. Now, I could be mistaken on that, and I'm open to any correction that people might have for me. Oh, plain old grunts, POGS, POGS. All right, yeah, absolutely.
I like it.
and Neil's back. K6KW with a Bioenno charge controller. Yes, in sunny California. Perfect. So okay, if you've got a charge controller and you can keep the battery topped up, I guess that makes up for it. I have no practical experience with this, so I can't really advise on that. Okay. Oh, Neil also says not 100 watts transmitter. Okay. So how many watts, Neil?
40, he says.
Did he say 40? Did I miss that?
40. Yeah. Okay. Running maybe 40 watts.
All right. Fantastic. Good stuff.
All right.
All right. So there we go. We're caught up with the comments.
Power level, 40 watts. Yep. It's a nice.
Okay. We're all caught up with the comments then. So I don't know if anybody has had a chance yet to take a look, but I did post a video this past weekend. I was off to a convention the weekend before, and I had a tiny snippet of time to be able to get up to Georgian Bay shoreline and a provincial park up there and run a quick POTA activation. Notable being that was the first attempt with the SG-2020 that I purchased, and man, did it work well. Yeah, go ahead, Tim.
You said in the video that you had some issues, but you didn't elaborate.
Yeah. Yep, absolutely. No, I didn't elaborate because I haven't narrowed all of them down yet. So number one, the SG 2020's manual is not, it's a group of American engineers that were SGC. And these guys are really smart and they know the radio stuff, and they built a solid product, a line of products, including some very well received antenna tuners. But I was surprised, given that kind of background, how poor the manual is. There's a lot of things in there that essentially, they don't tell you how to access various functions of the radio. One of those
is a gift.
Sorry?
Technical writing is a gift.
I guess it is. And I come at it from a different perspective because I always like step-by-step instructions. But it's not like that. So for example, they tell you in the manual that you can get an SWR reading off of it, but they don't tell you how. And the manual, the meter on this device is only a single row of LEDs. Now, I did, after much searching on the internet and going into the group's IO dedicated to the SGC, there is a keystroke combination that will give you an SWR reading if you're in CW mode, and then hit the push to talk. But the problem is, when I was out there at the park, I didn't know any of this. And I still have an issue, and I don't know whether it's because the tuner, I think, was not working 100%. I got to dig into that. So same deal. The manual isn't quite as good as I would like. But just niggling issues like that. I couldn't really. I had to take the tuner out of line because I wasn't trusting what I was seeing. So yeah, a lot more work to be done on that. Here's so Philip came back, says SGC didn't last long after the founder died. So there it is. Anyway, so more to come on the SGC front. Positives, nobody had any trouble hearing me. If I reached out to a station, they heard me. They had no trouble recovering my audio. I was only running 15 watts. Those radios are capable of actually more than 20 watts. I just dialed it down to 15 watts for the operation. And the audio was that I was getting loud and clear, and it's got digital noise reduction on it. And it works fantastically. It's incredible how good it works. I've got one clip that I didn't show in that video that I will show in an upcoming one. That is somebody pulled up in a van next to where I was operating, and there must have been something going on in that van, because all of a sudden I got hash. I hit that noise reduction, and it was gone. All I was getting was the station I was trying to listen to.
Right. A true mobile portable radio, that's for sure.
Yeah. No, yeah. Really, really good. Okay. So why you ask 100 watt CW? Okay, so Philip's telling us why he runs 100 watt CW. I started out with a 3 watt HW8 as a 16-year-old novice back in '79.
Nice.
So if he's done that, yeah, he can do just about anything else.
He can do whatever he wants anyway. It was fine. I just razzing him a little bit. I've never met anybody who did 100 watt CW. Okay.
All right. Good stuff.
I do here when I'm home here. I run it. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So now it's time to get into the whole field day side of things. 73s from VE7 PAE. And thank you very much for tuning in. We really appreciate it. Let's talk a little bit about field day. So, Tim, we know what your plan is. You're going to try to steal away some time to get out and use that new little True SDX rig that you've got there. Maybe make a few CW contacts with that. And is that a 5 watt rig?
Yeah.
Okay.
5 watt.
Chris, do you have any plans for field day?
I do. Every year I try to do something a little different. So the first I had that video series I did of doing it during lockdown when I set up a tent in my backyard, and I something I always wanted to do. I lived in the tent, and I did a Tracy thing actually, a field day in my backyard. Had a blast. Last year I did it on my porch here in the house, and same thing. Have my antennas set up in the yard and work my 817 and just plod my way through field day. So this year I want to do something different. What I'm going to do this time around is I looked on my POTA account and realized that I am 2 parks away from hitting 10 activated parks, which is your first level of awards, right?
Yeah.
I've got a bunch of hunter awards, but I don't have an activator award yet. So I'm thinking, okay, 2 more parks. So what I'm going to do is take my truck, which has the ICOM 7100 in it. I'm going to take one of Tim's antennas, or actually I have a couple of them. I'll take those out there with me, and I'll take my vertical and my Wolf River coil, and I'll go to a park and set myself up. And at 2 o'clock on my time on Saturday afternoon, I'll just work. If I can work 10 stations, great. When I hit 10, I'm going to pack myself up and drive to another park and set up again and do the same thing and keep doing it. The parks are closed.
He's hooked.
Huh?
He's hooked.
Oh yeah. Well, the POTA thing is I've been doing that for a while, and now I'm looking at, here's a way I can do both, and it'll be a class. I think it's 1C is the mobile class, which you don't normally hear on field days.
True.
So
That's very true. That is very true.
Right. So that's and it technically is mobile because the radio's getting power off of the truck. So that makes it, even on park, that's still a mobile operation. So So that's my plan. I'll do as many parks as I can. If I hit 10, I go to the next one.
Very cool. That's a cool little exercise. All right. Oh, and Alvaro, thank you for tuning in. 7-3 back to you from that's from Kilo Bravo 2 Uniform Echo Whiskey. Always nice to hear from you, Alvaro. All right. So I've put together a little bit of PowerPoint here. Let's just go and get everybody situated. All right. So here we go. So I titled this stream Winning Strategies. And so now we talk about, okay, what before we can even say anything about winning, we have to define what is a win. And for me, my idea of winning when it comes to field day has always been different from most other people's. I'm not talking about finishing first in my class or finishing first in my section, anything like that. There's for many years for me, it was, hey, can I make more contacts than I did the year before? And what would it take for me to do that? Because it's usually just me as a single operator out there doing stuff. It's not like I can have somebody spell me off or multiple stations set up where we can have me running 2 or more bands at a given time. So in recent years, it's become more of, hey, this is an opportunity for me to get out, to dedicate an entire weekend to radio, shoot some videos, and then of course play some radio. Now, because of the whole video side of things for me, and because of my channel, it's almost like the field day, the actual on radio stuff has become secondary to actually filming and making videos. And it's just because there's a lot of work that goes in to thinking through what am I going to talk about on a particular video? What do I need to show? What still photos need to go along with it? All that sort of works into it, when otherwise I might just be sitting there banging out as many contacts as I possibly might. So this is why for me, my whole technique, my whole goal at the end of field day is going to be different from most others. But I'm sort of taking myself back to the days when it was me before my YouTube channel going out there for field day, and I'm trying to make more contacts than I did the year before. And how do I do that? What kind of changes, what kind of strategy do I have to put in place to make that happen? But before we get into that, actually, I do get a lot of comments, a lot of emails. I encourage people to send in And once in a while, I get a really interesting email. And here's one. Actually, this was not an email. This was a comment on one of my videos, and I thought this was terrific. And I want to read it. There may be some people who aren't looking at the screen right now. There may be some visually impaired hams who can't make out what this is saying. So I'm just going to read through this, and it's a little bit longer. Sorry, Tim, did you have your arm up?
Yeah, I'm visually impaired. I can't read that.
Fair enough, and it's tiny because it's a long letter. Todd wrote this after seeing my SG 2020 video that I posted last week. I'm a bit curious why you haven't done a video on the Lab 599 TX500 yet. At least I couldn't find any on YouTube. It seems that for a guy who loves operating outdoors as much as you do, that you'd want to at least give one a try. Nothing against the SG 2020, but when you call it ultra rugged, it makes me chuckle a bit. It may have a more durable case than rigs like the KX2/3, but to me, the word rugged suggests that I can take it anywhere, including in the rain. With that big old speaker grill pressed into the top of the SG 2020, it certainly isn't water resistant. And while I can appreciate the fact that you don't need a fancy new rig to have fun, a little modern tech can go a long way to helping you make contacts. The filters on the TX500 alone are fantastic and require no expensive add-ons like the FT817. If you don't mind me asking, what makes you appear to be so disinterested in the TX500? Is it the price, the fact that it's new tech, SDR? Is it availability? Have you read bad reviews? Maybe it's because the company is Russian. I won't be critical of any reasons you give. The price is not cheap. SDRs have their limitations. There have been some bad reviews. I just think that a guy as smart as you with the interest that you have would be all over that rig. You turned me on to end-fed half-wave antennas a few years back, and when paired with a TX500 and a modest battery, you really do have a winning combination. I'd ask you to seriously consider it. So what I'd like to do now is, and that was a fantastic comment. Todd, if you happen to be watching this, I thank you very much for it. I love stuff like this because it's some really great discourse. If you have a comment, if you're watching this and you have a comment about this, please put it in the chat. Chris, number one, what's your take on the Lab 599 TX500?
You know, I think I've seen, like, I don't know a whole lot about it. I think I've seen pictures of it, but I really don't know much about it. I'm sure I saw a picture of it. It probably trigger me, but my memory on it. But yeah, but it does sound like. I think Todd brings up some great points about if you've got a top firing speaker and you're in the field. I think he's got a valid point that doesn't make it considered really very water resistant or waterproof. So that's a good point. I guess of course the other question is, like, does a radio pass a drop test? Like, if you drop it off a table, can you pick it up, still use it, or you got pieces all over the floor? That kind of thing. So, but yeah, and I guess I'd have to see a picture of it, and that would probably remind me of. I do remember looking at some Russian radios before, but I don't remember it.
It's got like one of these Elecraft portable rig type layouts in that it's flat. It's got the the display across the top with all the knobs and whatnot in it, but it's made of metal. It's extremely rugged. There's no, it's waterproof. It's Julian has done a number of videos. OH8 STN.
Yep.
So it's really something. Tim, do you have anything you would like to say about that model of rig?
Oh, it's a great radio. I'm not paying for it.
Yeah.
How much is it?
I don't remember.
It's almost $1,000 US.
Exactly in a second. Hang on.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, I've seen it. Yeah, it looks great. I don't care if it's Russian or not, but you know what? I'm not laying out $1,000+ for a portable rig.
Yeah. And just to put things in perspective,
yeah, it's $1149.95 at Ham Radio Outlet.
Oh, so it's more than $1,000.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, if I'm going to do that, I'm buying a KX2 or whatever.
So that's ICOM 705 territory.
Yeah.
When you're talking those kind of dollars,
What's the model again? What is I'm looking at the Lab
Lab 599 TX-500.
Okay. Yeah. Let me see.
So you guys, take a look at that. But I sort of want to respond to Todd's, and this does factor into field day because we're talking about rigs that are usable, that are useful in the field. So I just want to sort of go down here, and nothing Todd says is wrong. All right, nothing I'm not going to dispute. I'm not going to die on this hill because I think he's making some really good points myself. And I knew when I titled that video Ultra Rugged that I was going to get comments like this. I knew it. And that's one of the reasons I did it, right? It's because this was like maybe the first ultra rugged rig in the ham market. But since then, of course, this Lab 599 has come on. So yeah, would I love to try it? I would absolutely love to try it. But like Tim, I'm not going to spend that much money on a portable rig. And so here's the other thing. I don't need a waterproof rig. I don't need a rig that if I drop on the ground, that it doesn't break, because I take good care of my stuff and I don't operate in the pouring rain. If I bring a shelter, so I don't have to operate in the pouring rain. So I presume when I go portable that I am going to create the environment that a rig that's not built to an ultra tough standard is going to be fine. So there's that. Filters, absolutely. I completely get it, especially in crowded bands, whether it's field day, whether it's POTA, and POTA is just going nuts these days, and there's stations on top of stations, so the filtering can actually be a big deal.
The other thing too.
Yeah, go ahead, Tim.
You found your SGC 2020 at the Ham Fest. It's a vintage rig, right? It's quirky and it's got a little bit of a cool factor there. And I forgot it was less than $500 all day though, right? When you
300, and it cost me $355 US for both the rig and the tuner, the auto tuner.
I mean, I'm sure this is great radio if you're Bear Grylls or Les Stroud or somebody like that. But I like your SGC. I think that's fun. But I mean, it's a beautiful piece of equipment. It really is.
It is. It is.
And people seem to love them.
Okay.
That's awesome. It's just not what I would.
I just brought it up. Now I remember seeing it. It's a beautiful looking radio, and yeah, like to Tracy's, but you could. I think that would pass the drop test. You dropped it. It would.
I believe it would.
Work. It would work fine. And I guess like for a guy like Julian, like you were saying earlier, for what he does, absolutely you want to have a radio like that. But yeah, Tracy, I know you get out a lot more than all of us, and you always have some sort of shelter with you.
Yeah.
So it's not like you're gonna be standing there getting poured on, with nothing over your head and over your radio.
Yeah, and I wonder how many hams are out there getting poured on. Well, you know what I'm saying? It's like,
the main question is why haven't you cottoned onto this particular radio yet?
Okay.
I think the answer would be you will when they send you one, right?
Yeah, that's a good point, Tim. Absolutely.
So Todd,
I would love.
Todd, if you know anybody there, get them to send Tracy a radio. I'm sure
I would love to do a video series on it. Absolutely, but
a series, not a video.
Oh yeah, no, I could easily make a series out of something like that, as I intend to with the SG-2020, by the way.
Yeah.
Okay, that's all of that. It's time to get into field day now. I did have a couple of others that I wanted to get to, but I'm going to leave them.
No, let's. I love that kind of thing. Let's do the.
Okay, here we go. Here is another really interesting comment to one of my videos, and I'm going to read this, guys, and it's a long one. It actually spans 2 screens. But I think there's some really interesting stuff in here. Okay, obviously there are times when the bands won't cooperate, and an amplifier can certainly help. Now, one thing I'm going to say, whoever this is, and he didn't leave his call sign, He's got an exclamation mark at the end of every sentence. I usually disregard those, but I do think he's got a good message. So I'm not going to emphasize like every sentence has an exclamation mark.
When I was in school, that was considered bad grammar.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, if everything is important, nothing is important.
It's true.
But as someone stated, the rule of using only the power necessary to establish the contact went out the window somewhere down the line. When there were Elmers, perhaps they forgot to mention that to their novices. But as they say in the movies, forget about it. Seems nowadays everybody is an extra. No practical app, little to no experience, but an extra. And proud to tell you they went from no license to extra in one setting. But don't ask them the formula for a half-wave dipole, or what velocity factor is, and why it might be important. I wish I were kidding, but sadly, this is where we find ourselves. And when all us old fogies croak, it will quickly become the norm. And if you listen very well, you'll likely hear a breaker 19 buried in the static.
Okay, I take it back. I like this guy.
I like this guy. Yep, I'm with him.
Gone are the days of reverence, where as a novice you would stand in awe of the Morse code skills of the amateurs gone before you. On the way to or the way on phone, they would phonetically give their calls in almost rhythmic fashion. While eyes wide open, we surveyed the area of moving meters and flashing lights. Back to the subject, QRP. Have been a licensed amateur for more than 43 years now, and still just a kid compared to many. But have spent many an hour happily working CWQRP, and many times with a Michigan Mighty Mite at QRPP levels. And I think it boils down to how you choose to operate. People are the same, be them amateurs or Indian chief. Sometimes you can listen to a ham tell stories about his adventures in life and just about tell what kind of person they are. Some are bullies, or some were bullies as kids, and some never grew out of it. Those are the ones you'll hear up and down the dial cranking up the amps in their microphones because they feel someone has started a net too close to their frequency. I once happened upon an interesting chat where someone had crunched the numbers, and it showed the differences one might expect from running QRP to QRO. As it was beautifully demonstrated, the differences in perceived signal was in most instances no good reason to run 1500 watts, as there really isn't that much difference. I'm guessing I'll catch flack from some of the purists out there, but practically speaking, you can, and I have, worked the world with QRP. Perhaps for some, it is just a matter of semantics. What do you think, Chris?
Well, first of all, I agree. I like this guy. I think we need to meet him. He brings up a lot of really excellent points, and I agree with everything he said. Here.
Tim,
aren't you glad we went through these? You wanted to skip through them.
I was going to save it for next time, but Tim suggested we do it, and I'm
okay.
I'm
I know. I love this kind of thing. It's fun. I take as much time as I can out of my day and devote it to what I like to call like office hours, right? Because I get all kinds of questions all the time, and and I happily respond to all of them as soon as the computer's here in the workshop. So when I get an email, I can see it right away, and I have a bad habit of stopping whatever I'm doing to answer the questions, so people can get a response right away. It's just what I like to do. This kind of interaction is a lot of fun.
Yeah,
I have no opinion whatsoever on any of this. I don't I don't hold myself out or take sides in conflict. I do appreciate his perspective though, especially about velocity factor and wire. Very few people take that into consideration. But
I think he's brought up a lot of really, really valid points in the state of ham radio today, as opposed to what it was. Well, look, I got into it in the mid 70s, 76, right? So what it was then, like when he talked about, admiring like your Elmer or the older guys and how they operated and all that. I remember those days of going to someone's house and these guys really, like, they knew their stuff. They knew their radios. They knew how they worked, right? Where today, the licensing procedures and all that. Like, if you straight memorize the question pool, you're going to pay. You will go from nothing to extra in a day, right? You could technically do it, right? But do you really understand radio communications when you do that?
Well, I mean, come on. You have a cell phone, don't you? You understand how that? Do you understand how that works?
I don't need to know how that works, but if I'm a ham radio operator, right? Because the ham radio hobby itself was originally a bunch of. The idea was to train people in RF technology so they could, advance the art form.
Sure.
Cell phone's not supposed to do that with, right? Who cares? But I've seen it change, and I think we've all seen it change. And now you do tune around on low bands, and you hear these arguments going back and forth. Well, I was here first. It's my frequency.
And I bet you could have heard that same argument in 1963.
Well, look, I got on the air in '76, and listen, the stuff you hear in 7.200 now did not exist in 1976.
Oh, well, I'll take your word for that. I don't know.
Oh, I guarantee you never heard anything.
14313. I don't know if that's still an issue, but for many years.
What was that guy's name?
It's only a pseudonym.
No, he's a countryman of yours. So what was his name? That guy. Oh, heck.
Sorry, which guy?
He was famous for a while.
Yeah.
Was it Klaus or?
That didn't happen back then. It just, and even on repeaters, there was a lot more just good. It was good operations you heard, right? So this guy's message, I think, is spot on. I mean, he really is just describing the state of the hobby right now, and it's part of it, I think, was done to kind of maybe lower the bar to get more people into the hobby. But that's just my.
And you know what? You got to make a case for that too. Otherwise we could lose the most valuable asset we have, which is our spectrum.
Yes, agreed.
All right. Hey, listen, David Vaughn is with us. Hey, David, thanks for tuning in, and he really liked that. All right, Carl, Radio Canada. That Scout weighed in with that. Is that who you're talking about? I don't know that story, if that's the case.
Which story is that? I'm sorry.
You were just talking about one of my countrymen.
Yeah. The 14313 guy.
Oh, is he was 14313?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I just thought there was a whole gang of them.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. Well, there used to be just like the one guy, and he was out there talking. It was like all day.
Oh, okay.
This was years ago, though. Carol, or is it Carl or Carol or something like that? Yeah, I don't. Radio Canada.
Great.
Perfect.
All right.
FCC, people would complain to the FCC about him all the time. And I remember there was one of the FCC commissioners or something like that who's just like, look, it's a bad neighborhood. What do you do in a bad neighborhood? You just don't go there, right? And everybody got all worked up about that too.
Yeah.
I don't know that's still going on though, is it?
I don't know. It just stuck in my brain from years ago, and because I avoided it like the plague. It was like 7,200, as Chris was indicating. Okay, let's move along here, gentlemen. All right, so here we go. Tim, I think I'm going to ask you about this one. So here's Kinetic 79.
Okay.
Regarding why, so this alludes back to our conversation. Do you remember we were talking about why would anybody want the end-fed half-wave? We were talking about it, and I think it's because it was a 40 meter, but it was linked. And you were saying you don't want to deal with a long antenna.
Yeah.
I thought this was a really interesting comment about that.
Okay.
Do you remember that? First of all, putting it in perspective.
No, I remember. When you raised the topic with me, I remember that I do have an opinion. I mean, end-fed. I understand why people like end-fed half-waves. They're cool and they're easy, and to get them up in a tree or erect them with a mast or something like that, it's generally pretty easy.
Mm-hmm.
That's awesome. I don't like it because you have the 66-foot wire in one direction that you kind of have to do it. It's a lot easier to do it, as a dipole. I'm 33 and, or 32 and a half and 32 and a half and, something in the middle, maybe.
I just want to frame this for people who might not remember it from last month's stream. And so the idea here was for a linked end-fed half wire, 40 through 10 meters. so that you could remove links to work the other bands if you didn't have enough space. And I remember saying, why would you even want to do that? Because I'm so used to 66-foot wires. And you said sometimes you just don't want to deal with the length of a 66-foot end-fed half wave. So
that's right.
Kinetic 79 comes in, says, regarding why a linked end-fed half wave may make sense, in addition to Tim's comments, and I think he's talking about Tim Golf 5 Tango Mike who weighed in here, you may also want to optimize your takeoff angles on an end fed in the vertical orientation by shooting for true half wave on the band of operation. If you just operate multi-band on lower bands based purely on the harmonics, you get the funkier lobes and may lose gain where you want it. Some of the British Tim's videos highlight such takeoff angle topics well.
So, yes, for practical reasons, I like it because of the shorter wire. For operational reasons, yes. And in fact, what I did for Chris for field days, he's got, nobody else has a linked end fed out there that I've ever seen. People may make them themselves or something like that, but I can't go to, mfj.com and buy one, right? So one of the things I wanted to do coming out, in the summer is just kind of redesign everything. And one of the things I want to do is do a linked end fed halfway for the big ones, 20, 40, maybe 15 or something like that. But you get the idea, right?
Yeah.
And this is another reason that you might want to be able to do that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. I hadn't even thought of that, but it is a really good point. Okay, and Philip, KA4 KOE's coming back in. Run 40 to 10 meter end fed half wave as a vertical, with half vertical and half horizontal, kind of like a ground plane. I've done this recently and it works well.
Yeah.
All right, here's another one. From Red Death 1176.
Right
I'm
on.
in a quandary. Yeah, go ahead, Tim.
No, I was just making Red Death.
I'm in a quandary.
It's okay.
I'm in a quandary because of this. I wanted an FT 897 5718 for my first HF rig, as I envisage portable use. But if you take filters, etc., into account, I'm heading towards 7300 territory. So what does someone buy now if they can't afford a 7300? What generally is right for around $400?
G90.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, if you want new, yeah. I wonder what the market is going to use 891.
Well, yeah, that's another good choice. Yep, 891. But for probably around the same price range, I'm going to stand up a little bit in defense of the. There you go, Tim. A little bit for the 897 or the 857 if you find one in good condition in the used market. In that, so the filters they can be an issue, but that's what an RF gain control is for. And you can do surprising things by putting on the attenuator and putting on the RF gain if you're running it. It also has IF shift as well. So there are some tools to combat the close-in interference. It's not like you don't have anything. And the beauty of all of that is that you do have the lower power consumption. Now, the G90, Tim, you looked into that. What is the power consumption?
Oh, I have
the G90. Do you know?
I've got one here somewhere. I'd have to look at the specs.
Has that come out of the box yet?
Hey, Tracy,
are we actually sure that there's a G90 in the box?
What about a used 706 Mark II G?
They draw a lot of current on receive.
Okay.
So it's a portable rig. That's 2 amps draw and receive, Chris.
Okay.
It's out of the box. Kind of.
Hey, we do. It is in there. Okay. So do you have any idea what the receive current draw on that is?
I have to look it up. It's not. If I remember correctly, it's not bad, but it's not like super great either. You follow me? It was certainly less than what were we talking about when you took your 450 out in the field or something like that.
With the 991A.
Yeah, that one.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that was 1.6 amps.
Yeah, it was certainly better than that, if I recall correctly.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, here we go.
Okay. All right. So Red Death, there's some ideas for you. Yeah, 7,300 is a long way from $400 though, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
Yeah, so it's like you're and the 7,300 draws a ton on receive as well.
What about used though?
You know what? I don't see many used 7,300s on the market, at least in my area.
They're not. Do they still make them, right?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
You're not going to get a used one for $400. That's for sure.
Didn't that cause a whole bunch of? Wasn't there a kerfuffle when that came out? Because that's the one with the display head that's off on the side, and it's got a funny.
No, the front panel on the 7,300 is not removable. Are you thinking about the 7,100, which is the model Chris has?
Yeah,
with the spoke front.
That's the one I'm thinking of.
Yeah.
Okay, well,
the 7,300 is probably the most popular ham radio ever.
Yeah, it's a nice rig.
Yeah.
I agree with that. Yep.
Well, from Japan, it's $876. Here's a used one, $801.
Talking about the 7100, I wouldn't see that as funny. I wouldn't see it as a portable radio. I wouldn't take it out. I mean, it's great. Like I have it set up in my truck, and I had to fabricate a mount for it. But the only reason I picked the 7100 because in my truck it's got the nice big display and it's sloped, so you can look at it. But in a truck it works.
Yeah.
And of course it works at home. It's got the little panel you put on a desktop and you're fine. But
I love the feature set, Chris, of the 7100. And I would have considered purchasing one if it didn't have that discrete two-piece concept to it.
Right.
But and here I am, and you are saying, both of us together, it's like I can't see that as a portable rig. But two people I know, Joseph, VE3 GKT, has done amazing Parks on the Air work with his using it all portable. And my friend Tom, VA3WBA, who's going to be with me at Field Day this year, he's got one in a Go box that we used for Winter Field Day.
You just hit it on the head. They put it in a Go box. It's not like
they did. Yeah. Okay. Oh, and so here we go. I want to get back to some of the comments. So John, VE5JHN, the G90 is a tough first HF radio. It's great when you have some experience. Okay. So maybe there's some user interface issues there.
Well, look, if you're used to using the Yaesus and the ICOMs and stuff like that, I mean, there's a different vibe, I'll say, when you pick up, some of the Chinese radios like that. That FX4C too. Walt did a bunch of videos on that recently too. He really liked it. In fact, he did a face-off on the G90 versus the FX4. I think he came out on with the G90, but it was like super close, and I think the tuner put it over the top. Was the thing, but
okay.
All right. It does. It has a different vibe. And when I got mine, you had to download the firmware, but you first had to download the software to fix the firmware. And so it was a pain in the neck. And I was,
it would be.
When you get a radio and you want to turn it on and start doing stuff.
Take it out of the box and play with it. Yep.
Absolutely.
There's a couple of steps.
So Philip is saying the 7200 is a good field radio. Now I owned a 7200 and it was my only HF rig at the time. I sold it to buy an 817, which got me going with portable ham radio, but it draws a ton of juice on receive. So again, it's a fair sized box. So it's not your one of your compact low current draw rigs. It draws probably twice as much as an FT891 does on receive. And Philip's coming back at you. The FX4CR is more refined. The G90 is rough around the edges.
Okay.
Cool. Thanks for the feedback on that. Okay, let's move along a little bit here. Speaking of Philip, he sent me this. I'm using this as of this past Saturday. It's not perfect, but 3D printing is a wonderful thing. So he made himself a guy ring for a fiberglass pole using a 3D printer. I love this. And oh, and did you notice the Night Eyes Cam Jam devices there? Those are my favorite. That's a great setup he's got there.
I'll tell you, Tracy, that idea of taking just a hunk of PVC and making it so you can drop a mast in it, brilliant.
Yep.
I made my little takeoff on yours, and it works. I love it. Use it all the time.
It's awesome, and I think a lot of hams have adopted it, and it's working really well for them. Okay, all right. Now we're talking about field day, and we're talking about my field day. So I want to tell you just a little bit of a story. And by the way, guys, we're going to run a little bit longer today because it's taken us a little while to come around to the field day.
I opened my big mouth. What happened?
Well, I don't want to point fingers, so I'm just going to skip right on ahead. Yeah. All right. So for a number of years now, I've received really nice emails from people saying, hey, here's some photos of what I've done, etc. I got a photo from a gentleman who is a pastor of a church out near Chicago, and he sent me some photos. He had rented a cabin somewhere out in that area, and he sent me some photos of this cabin. It's not in the woods; it's actually almost bordering farmland. So he was able to get a really good wire antenna up high in a private location. And I'm sitting here thinking back, and I am the guy who goes to provincial parks here in Ontario. That's our version of state parks. I've been to a whole bunch of these, and my pet peeve with them is that I live in this province of Ontario. You could fit 7 Floridas in the real estate of Ontario. Ontario is huge, and the vast majority of it is wilderness. You go north of the Toronto area, it doesn't take you more than 2-3 hours, and 90% of what's around you is forest, and then it just keeps going and going and going. But you get into a provincial park, and now what you find is that you've got suburbia. You're going to get away from it all, but your neighbor's right across the roadway. There's another neighbor right here, another neighbor right here. There's no privacy. There's maybe a bush or a few trees, but the branches are all up here and the leaves are all up there. So you're looking over to the other guy, and he's looking back at you. The kids are running around making noise, all the rest of it. It's not like, unless you luck out or do some of the tricks that I've done to try to find the more private campsites. It's not like you ever really have a campsite that is, it's private, and it gives you an opportunity to do things like throw antennas up in trees without having people look at you thinking, what the heck is that guy doing? I better call a park ranger. So it was with this in mind that I did some research a couple of years back, and I found this website called Hip Camp. Now, Hip Camp is a site for people who have land, and they want to rent out parts of their land for campers who don't want to do the stay. And this is, by the way, is in Canada and the US. And they're all over North America.
Just think of the insurance liability.
For whatever reason, this is not a big issue for these people. So I found this, and it's like, holy cow, there's some really interesting places in here where you can actually get yourself a campsite and have some room and have some privacy to be able to set up a good wire antenna and have at it. So I found this site that's about an hour and a half out of the city that I live in southwestern Ontario, and I just want to show you a few photos of what I found on the Hip Camp site. So it's on a farm, and in order to get to the site, you have to drive along this, along the side of this massive field, and then down in a glade beside a creek is the campsite.
Jeez, nice.
Now here's another shot. Here's basically from the creek looking up towards the entrance, and that's a little laneway coming down from that track. Now, does anybody notice anything right here which says, okay, this could be a bit of a problem for a radio operator?
Wait, hang on. What?
It's not a big deal. In my estimation, but it's not ideal from one perspective.
You're worried that it's down set low?
Thank you. Exactly right, Chris. Typically you want to be on the highest terrain, but this comes down, as you can see, 20 feet or so around surrounding terrain. I don't think that's going to be a deal killer here. And I'm going to continue to show you some photos here.
Well, hang on a second. I mean, how much
go ahead.
access do you have? I mean, is this like a 40 acres and you got your run of the place, or what?
So I have access to the campsite, and you'll see a few more photos of the campsite here to get an idea of what we're looking at. So here's just another shot. Here's the creek going by. There's a picnic table down there. There's another shot of the creek. So this is probably the prettiest place I've ever operated from.
Oh, that's nice. That looks like it's in the fall.
Sorry?
That looks like it's in the fall.
This shot was taken in the fall. Yeah, so they've got some historical photos up there. So it's got a fire pit, which is kind of cool. And here's another shot. Now, so this is actually looking towards, and I don't know why people use their phones and shoot photos in the portrait orientation. Take that phone and put it on its side so we get the full expanse. But anyway, this is what we're dealing with.
It's almost like putting exclamation marks after your sentences. And what's with the Russian flag tent?
That's not mine. It's not mine. Hey, I'll bet that's the developer of the Lab 599.
Yeah,
they're taking a break, getting away from all the all the
field
crazy. That's right. He's doing a field test. So there's a big tree there. This is essentially a better look at. Let me see if I've got another photo here that kind of shows. This is another show from up on the hill. Sorry,
you did it again.
Yeah, a lot of it. So here we go. Now this is, so the creek is off to the right in this shot. There's a great big tree there. That is a beautiful thing, because that's going to provide some shade. If it's a hot baking day, I'm going to be able to put tents under that big old tree. So I like that big flat area around, and lots of trees for putting up wire antennas. And when I made my inquiry with the landowner here, I was right up front. I said, this is what I'm going to do. This is what I'm looking for. Are you okay with this? And by the way, I'm an experienced camper. I've done this a lot in my life. I'm a leave no trace guy, and I'm not going to harm any trees in any of this. And they were fine with it.
Great. Looks like a great site.
I think this is going to be amazing.
Yeah.
Let me see here. Slide.
This is cool. I just texted my sister and told her about it.
Oh yeah,
it's like Airbnb for campers. Yeah,
you could bring out some of those huge soda beams, fiberglass poles, and set yourself up out there with some high flat tops.
Yeah.
With all of those trees, I wouldn't touch a pole.
It depends. It depends where they are, and if you got a nice open space there, maybe one pole on the other end of the tree. I don't know.
Let me show. So I want to go back to this photo for a sec. I don't know if I'm going to have enough time to do it. But when I saw this photo, you know what the first thing I thought of was?
Coffee.
Can you see my mouse when I put my mouse over the screen here? You might not be able to.
Is that a duck? Or is that a snake or something?
No. So I want you to take a look at the trees leaning over the creek on the left side. Mm-hmm. And there's another one leaning over the creek on the right side.
Sure.
The first thing that popped into my mind, could I get a wire across those? And actually have a wire over the creek? I don't know. I just think that would be a pretty cool thing to do, but I don't know. I will have to see logistically, and it may not be. They may not be far enough apart to actually make it make sense. But that's a pretty good height, and that's above average terrain. If the average terrain is 20 feet higher, then that'll get us up to a pretty good
Sure.
good hike.
How are you going to get across the creek though?
Take off the shoes and socks, and away you go, man.
Some waders. Okay.
Bare feet.
Cool.
All right. Let me see here. Have I missed something? All right. I don't know. I seem to be missing a slide. But let's
Tell us about
just
tell us about it. It's good.
all right. So let's pick up from here. So what I'm trying to impart on people here is to, what is your plan for field day? And, how are you going to make it happen? The first thing that I want to advise people is be prepared. So understand what you're going to be doing. If you're going out and you're doing field day with a group, none of this matters because chances are somebody else is looking after the logistics and all you have to do is show up and operate. Or maybe you're going to set up some antennas, you're going to help people set up stuff. But if you're going out the way I do, maybe just yourself, maybe you and a buddy and maybe 2 or 3 other guys, you haven't done this before. It's really important to just think this through. Okay, number 1 is going to be, okay, what are you expecting from a weather perspective? All right, is it going to rain? And by the way, the long range forecast for field day weekend where I'm going is rain. Right. we could have rain. If I have rain, now this is going to change my shelter choices.
Sure.
So last year at field day, I used this tent here. And this is my 5-man tent, and it has a fly that goes over top in the event of rain. It's a bomb-proof tent. But it was hot, baking hot, no chance of rain. So I left the fly off and I just put a tarp over top just to keep it kind of shady and cool so that when I slept at night, it wasn't going to be a sauna in there. So that's a perfect example right here of a warm weather shelter. And of course, you need the screen if you're going to be anywhere where there are bugs because you don't want the mozzies coming after you if you're out camping because you're not going to get any sleep at all. So that's the sleeping tent. Now that I want to point that out. Let's go back there for just a minute. That is a great tent for sleeping in the summertime. It is not a great tent for operating in the summertime. And the reason is you look at all those walls. Look at that lack of screenage there. That means you're not going to get a lot of breeze blowing through there. And it's going to get hot and it's going to get stuffy during the day, even if you've got it set up under the shade of a tree like I do here and under a tarp. So think about your own comfort. I mean, if the temperature is going to be good and there's and the weather is going to be good and you got a picnic table or something else that you can park under the shade of a tree, then that's great. And there's no bugs. That your life just got a whole lot easier. But I don't often get to camp in those kind of conditions. So this is what I have to do. All right. So I usually always actually bring a shelter for the operating location. Now, this is anybody who's seen my videos may be familiar with my no bug zone shelter. And this is a pretty good one. All right. For sunny weather, I like this one a lot. So I notice I've got it parked under some shade. It's also got the tarp to keep it a little bit more sheltered from the sun. But it's got it's got these big screens and the doorways can be opened wide and tied back to get a breeze through if there's no bugs. So it does a number of things. If it rains in a shelter like this, about 70% inside will not get wet. But there is all around the perimeter, there's going to be quite a bit of area inside the tent that is going to get wet. And now, of course, you're cutting down on the usable amount of space. If you've got a good sized table like I do, then some of your table is going to get wet and you get your radio gear sitting on there and you might have some of your other gear sitting on there. So this is great for sunny weather, not so great for rainy weather. I showed you guys this last month. This is my new no bug zone. They call this the screen house, I think it is. And this is like the no bug zone, but bigger inside. So now you've got a lot more room. You can stand up all the way around the inside of the square without bending over. That regular no bug zone has that V shape to it. So this is nice for that. But again, you've got those screen walls, so rain will get in there. It's a great shelter. It takes more to set up. It's a bigger bag. It's heavier. Now, all the reason I'm specifying those is if you have to take, number one, you're packing up. What's the size of your vehicle? Do you have a ton of space in your vehicle to take everything to field day with you? If you do, you won't mind the bigger size of this particular bag that this product comes in. But you might prefer the smaller size of the regular no bug zone, which when paired up either with tying the two sides off to trees, so you don't need poles, or just some collapsible poles which don't take up any room at all, that might be a better choice. Again, sunny weather options. All right. But now I've got, I bought this one last year. I used it in October. This is my heavy duty. Think about it as being one of these, but with walls that can come down if it's raining to cover the screens, or at least partially cover the screens. And one of the good things about rain, it doesn't always happen, but good things about rain in June is usually it means the temperature's getting cooler when the rain comes through, which means that you don't have to worry so much about breezes inside the tent to keep you cool. So you can even crack open the screen a bit if it gets a bit stuffy, but you're still very covered. So I'm going to be keeping a close eye on the forecast to see exactly what is going to be coming in the weather forecast. I may even take both of these, both this one and that one, depending upon how much room I have in the car. So there's my thoughts on shelters. And of course, I can always bring a tarp, by the way. And here's something else. If it's going to be raining all weekend long, and think about where you're at. Okay. So are raccoons, bears, other sorts of things, other sorts of critters an issue? If so, you probably don't want to make your food inside your shelter like this, because you will have nocturnal visitors, and that could upset things. So that's why using, I'll just go back to show you that orange tarp. I often take this orange tarp in rainy weather and put it up over the picnic table, which will keep the picnic table mostly dry. It'll get a little bit wet, but mostly dry. But I can do all my food prep there. I'm not a big time food prep guy, but it also means that I've got an extra platform for doing things. Whether it's just setting gear up or tearing gear down, it's always nice to have an extra flat surface to be able to do something like that. Okay. Now we get into some field data. And by the way, anybody have any questions? Let me just check the comments here. Chris and Tim, either you guys have any comments on anything we've covered so far, or stuff that maybe you've thought of?
You have a lot of tents.
I have a tent fetish. It is what it is, and I can't. I got to go see a counselor or something.
I was gonna say, when it comes to this stuff, Tracy is hardcore when it comes to go out there and doing like camping and radio and all that. Having a separate tent for the radio, I mean, it makes sense. Obviously, you're going to be in there. You want to breeze if it's a hot day. So, but yeah, that's definitely a hardcore field day. That's for sure.
Okay. What else we got here? What do we see here? Douglas V, amateur radio and more. Hey, thanks for tuning in. He says he would like to get out there Friday. Depends on work. And what else is going on? Wade, VA3 NCA, late to the stream, so catching up on ×2 speed. I'll join you all in the present in about half an hour. Very cool. All right, good stuff. All right, let's get back to some of my field day tips here. And here's the biggest field day tip of all. Hey, it's only once a year. Remember, this is a hobby. Have fun. You know, if you're going out there with a group, if you're only going out there by yourself, make the most of it. Certainly take it as a learning experience. You will learn, and you'll come better prepared next year as a result of lessons you learned this year.
Yes.
It's still happening for me. But whatever you do, go into it with a light heart, and really try to enjoy it. Make that your number one focus for field day. I just talked about being prepared for weather. And that includes clothing too, by the way. If it cools off at night, you want to have a nice sweater, because you get cold, you don't have the right clothing, it's going to make things miserable for you. Take extras, and I mean extras of, if it's going to be raining, take extra clothing, right? Because you're not going to want to put on that wet stuff the next day. But take extras, take extra coax. You take I take, as you know, I take multiple rigs along just in case something goes bad. If a microphone goes bad on my SGC 2020, and then my SGC 2020 is off the air, I better have a backup rig, for example.
Yep.
Know your plan, but don't feel like you have to stick to it. Be prepared to adjust as you go along. Make decisions. Figure out. This actually happened to me in the pandemic year when I was operating out of my backyard. I had everything set up. 45 minutes into the contest, I hadn't made a single contact. I had to make changes. So I did make changes, and I ended up making contacts as a result of those changes. Adversity will find you at field day. Remember, you're at field day. You're not in your basement shack where you've got all your tools and all your gear and you need something and it's right over there. So adversity will find you. But again, going back to the enjoy it bit, don't let it get you down. Okay, take it as a learning experience and move along. Okay, the most important field day task. I want to put this out to the community. This is by far the most important field day task. Any guesses?
Hydrate.
It's a good idea, but that's not the most important task. Oh, Philip's got one. Avoid setting up if you hear banjo music.
Tell us.
I'm gonna
tell us.
Go ahead, Tim.
No, tell us what it is.
I'm gonna break the tension here, and there's gonna be some groans, I know, but it's true.
Oh, I thought you were gonna say like safety or something.
No.
Okay.
No.
Packing.
It's packing. It's. Are you taking everything you need? Are you forgetting something important? Packing is, for me, of any camping trip, it's the part I hate the most. It is the least fun bit of camping and field day. Packing is ultra important. Now, I've got something I want to show you that I use every time I go on something like this.
Oh dear.
With Tim.
Oh dear.
If I don't do this, something important gets left behind.
Well, it's funny, like when you were talking about like take extras and all that. The limited field day operations I've done, I do take. I don't know if I go this detailed with it, but I do sit there and say, okay, I want to make sure I've got everything I could possibly need. Right now, the hard part is thinking through that. Well, what could I possibly need? Right. So you might just think, oh, I'll take my G90, whatever it is, and run out in the field and set up and operate. Okay, what if the antenna is broken? What if the coax is no good? Something like that. So what's the old saying? Like, to have two is to have one. To have one is to have none. Right. So it brings some extra.
Two is one is none.
Okay.
Right.
Well, all right. So I'm convinced now that this is Tracy's idea of fun. All right. Here's where the fun is for Tracy. I've got a plethora of tents to choose from and a checklist and all my little stuff. And I'm not going to say I just like to take my G90 out of the field and see what happens. It doesn't quite work like that, but I would my style would be to travel a little bit lighter, I think.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. Well, that's the point. And I think Tracy's making. It's like before you do anything, what is it you want to do on field day? You got to answer that question first. Like, what is it you want to do? You want to go out and try 3 different antennas? Okay, then that's what you're going to do. So you kind of have to have that I want to say like a mission in mind. Like, what is it you want to try to do, right? If to your point, Tim, it's like, oh, I want to go out and take my G90 out, set it up, and make some contacts. Yeah. Okay, there you go. That's your mission. You're going to go out.
I will tell you this: if I'm going to go camping with somebody, I'm going with a guy like this. I don't have to worry.
Absolutely.
I'm his partner. That's for sure.
Absolutely. Right. But I think that the important thing is just like planning it out and thinking everything through. But really, what is it you want to do? Like my thing this year is like, I want to take my truck, park in a park somewhere, and set up, make some contacts, and okay.
Well, I think Tracy wants to suck all the joy out of this. I mean, look at this. Hatchet, rebar, sledgehammer, hose clamps, times three. Military.
So some of these things will not be going along on this trip. And it was Tim's fault.
I don't see antenna. I don't see antenna anywhere on here.
Whoops.
Oh, there. Okay, it's its own little category. Okay, all right. But I still don't see the antenna.
And so okay, so you caught me on that, because usually the antenna is a specialty. All right, it's something that I don't need to have it on there, because I plan to do a video based upon an antenna, like a G5RV, for example.
Yes.
All right. So, but I'm going to bring 3 or 4 antennas with me. And I'm not, and here's the thing, right? You're not going to forget. Typically, most of us are not going to forget to bring our rig, but you might forget to bring that patch cord. You might forget to bring that power cord. It's the little stuff that when you don't bring it, the rest of it can't work. And by doing this, it means that when I get out there, I'm not kicking myself because, oh my God, I've done all this work and now I can't do anything. I'm packing up and I'm going home.
I throw a little thought there too. Is like, I mean, it's getting close. It's like next weekend, but it might not be a bad idea. Like if you're using a lot of portable gear, to set it up at home and test it, make sure everything is working, make sure like the little jumper cable isn't broken. Yeah. So when you get out there, you're like, oh crap, the wire came offside the connector and I have nothing out here to fix it with.
Look, there's wine in his flask. I knew it.
Oh, you got to have some of that. So, when it comes dinner time, if I, and so that's another, I'm glad you pointed that out, Tim, because you know what? Field day is not all about radio for me. All right. At some point, my ears are just going to start ringing, and this is in the Saturday evening, and it's going to be like, man, I got to turn this off for a little bit, and I'm going to kick back, and I'm going to have a glass of wine
and enjoy the scenery. It sounds like for this place that you found. I mean, I understand if you're at a campsite with a bunch of people and they start cooking next door and it smells terrible or something like that. But what you found, I think, it would be ideal.
Yeah.
If you get some solitude, I'd even take a telescope too and see if the clouds are up.
Yeah.
I'm sure it would be great for that. Anyway, so yeah, some good points, guys, on that. But this is, Chris, I think you've hit the nail on the head here. This really is just about taking enough time to actually prepare. Don't just get all excited, load up the car, and then get there and oh my gosh, I do this because. And this list changes every year, and there's some things on there I won't take, but to your point, Chris, I've got, I once in a while, I'll go onto Amazon and I'll buy an 18-foot RG8X extension with PL259s already on it.
Sure.
So if I do have a connector fall off,
but also make sure
I've got another cable there.
And make sure you've got barrel connectors in case you need to make something long, right? So here's my plan. Like I said, I'm going to run around the truck, use my 7. That's all set up in the truck. I have nothing to set up. It's all connected, everything works, right?
Mhm.
So all I have to do is hook up and I even have an antenna switch in that truck to switch between ham sticks, and I've got an extra position. So that's the one that's going to go outside and feed whatever antenna I'm using outside. What I'm also taking with me is my backpack with the 817, the battery, and all the extra stuff. So just in case, for some oddball reason, the 7100 throws up, okay, I can set up my 817 and do something with that.
You bet.
But also, what's in that backpack is the Leatherman, the extra cables, other little the tchotchkes, the adapters, the barrels, all that stuff. All the so that's the stuff I'm taking with me. But I think like the important thing, and to your last video you did with when you took the 2020 out, you had a Leatherman with you, and you had that little power thing to get yourself on the air.
Yeah,
that's the kind of stuff you got to think about. Electrical tape, all these little things. You got to make a quick splice. That kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But always have a backup plan. You always have all the other stuff. But yeah, as long as you know what you want to do, that's where you start.
Yep. Fair enough. So let's move on a little bit from this one. So I do have a strategy, and that is to get there on Friday. I take the Friday off work. I'm going to be up at the campsite. I'm going to talk to the lady. If there's nobody, if I can get Tom moving, and I think Tom's pretty gung-ho about this, if I can get him moving early enough, even though we're not supposed to get there until 2, I'm going to see if there's any chance that we can get there earlier, because I like to have most of the day on Friday to set up camp, set up the shelters, and then maybe set up some antennas. That way, if I get that done, dinner time comes along, and then I can turn on the rig in the evening, and in previous years, I'd be able to do a POTA activation. Well, I can't this year because it's not a park, but that's okay. Maybe I can join Kevin K0KLB's net from where we're at. See if the QRP net is on. So that's kind of nice, and then just kind of chill on the Friday night, get a good night's rest overnight, wake up Saturday. Now, if I have a little bit more antenna work to do, or if we're going to put up multiple antennas, which we might do, then we have plenty of time until 2 o'clock in the afternoon here, which is when field day kicks off, to make sure everything's hunky-dory, have a good lunch, and then at the crack of 2, start making contacts. So the antennas, and I can't say enough about this, you got to have a good antenna. You got to try to put it up as high as possible, as in the clear as possible. When I say in the clear, I don't necessarily refer to trees, but I'm referring to away from metal structures, anything with wiring or anything else inside it, whether it's street lights or hydro poles or anything else. Do your best to get some distance between those. If you can get it up 30 or 40 feet, then you're going to be in pretty good shape.
Yeah.
Okay. I always start the exercise. And by the way, I'm just going to say this here. Field day, I in the past, I've called it a contest. I've been rightly corrected. It is a field preparedness exercise.
Correct.
Although I think it's become a contest.
Well, when they added they added the base stations that can contact each other.
How are 1 Delta stations? How do they fit into that category? You know what I'm saying? It's it's not field preparedness anymore with all those guys on there.
Huge mistake.
Yeah. Okay, so that's off my chest. So I start on 40 meters, because if I have a decent 40-meter antenna up, and I'm going to be using an N9 SAB which is resonant on 40 this year, I'm going to make contacts on 40 meters. Just no two ways about it. And I'm going to work up and down the band until I can't find anybody else that I haven't worked. And I don't camp out on a single frequency. I usually hunt and pounce. I have tried that on occasion. It hasn't worked out for me really well, so I hunt and pounce. And when I go through a couple times and I can't work anybody else anymore, then I move up and I'll try 20. 20 can sometimes be so jammed that it's really hard to get in there. Sometimes the conditions just aren't really good. Last year, 20 was awful. For my station, it was just the signals were up and down, lots of QSB. It was just rotten. I had a 15-meter. Tim, I had your 15-meter half square up. Antenna worked well. I made some contacts, but 15 was garbage. 10, there was nothing happening on it.
Yeah, last year was rough. Yep.
So if the higher bands are open, are genuinely open, then you can spend an awful lot of time on 20, 15, 10 meters and make a boatload of contacts with your portable station.
Yep.
But if they're not, 40 meters is where I camp out. Now, an interesting aspect to field day, it's which puts it in a completely different category from POTA activations. As the day moves along, 2 o'clock to 3 o'clock, 3 o'clock to 4 o'clock, the bands change. And now stations that were on the East Coast that you were hearing before are not as audible. And now the West is starting to open up for you. So you have to bear this in mind. If you have a sloper and it is sloped toward the east, you might want to take it at some point and slope it towards the west or towards the south to maximize your counts in those directions. So consider that as the day moves along, and certainly as you get into night, completely different story. And so if you've worked everybody that you can work on 40 between 2 and 3 o'clock in the afternoon, well, then you want to try again between 7 and 8, because there's a whole different group of stations on there.
That's true.
All right, there's that part of it. And I do like to take breaks. You know what? I used to go hardcore on field day, and I would sit there and I would just bang them off. I would surprise my friends who just couldn't understand how I could sit there and take the din for hours on end. But those days are actually gone. I can't really do that anymore. And I'm also trying to film a video or two, so that's always getting me up out of my chair. I definitely turn the radio. I turn it right off for dinner. And sometimes I'll break, 5:30, 6 o'clock, and I won't turn it back on until 8 o'clock. And by then I'm refreshed and recharged. And then I'll run, in a park, like a provincial park, I can run until 10 or 11. But after that, I have to shut it down, because that's when, they don't like you to operate and bug your neighbors after that time frame. But where I am this year, there wouldn't be any issue with that. Now, my big issue is that, as you guys know, I turn into a pumpkin after we're up to about that point of the day now anyway. I've been up early every morning for years and years, and I'm now a morning person and not a night person. So chances are by the time 11 o'clock rolls around, I'm getting pretty dopey. I might last until midnight, but I certainly pull the plug after that. As you move into the evening, get your lighting set up. Put the lanterns on the table. Get them out. Find out where they're stashed. Put them on the table while it's still daylight out. So as it does get dark, you can turn them on. You don't have to go digging for them. Take a headlamp if you have a headlamp, because it's always great for looking around in your gear to find that little thing you're looking for. And the biggest tip I can give about field day is get on the air Sunday morning, because so many stations clear out on Sunday morning. Many of them have worked into the night and into the wee hours, and they're exhausted and they don't log on back on Sunday morning, maybe until much later. By getting on at that time, the bands quieten considerably, and now you've got a chance to make quite a few contacts with a low power or a compromised station. So Sunday morning is prime contact making time for field day.
That's true.
All right, gentlemen, that's all that I have to talk about with regard to field day. Let's take a look at some of the comments that have come in. So David Vaughn, here we go. Actually, so we got a couple of mosquito comments. Philip says high concentration DEET will destroy plastic.
Certainly will.
Yeah, that's something you want to be mindful of if you've got DEET all over your hands.
Mosquitoes.
Sorry, go ahead, Tim.
High concentration DEET will melt your skin too.
Probably, yeah. David Vaughn says mosquitoes hate smoky fires. Yes, they do. But if you're like me, you're that guy that the smoke always seems to get attracted to. And I don't know what's worse, the smoke in the eyes or the mosquitoes. If alone, make sure someone knows where you went and when you should be home. Man, that is tremendous.
It's a great idea.
Okay, Neil says, hey, he's forgotten to take along a barrel connector. Oh, that's completely disappointing, isn't it? Philip mentioned the multi-tool. Yeah, I take my Leatherman, and it's a constant companion. Okay, Neil, K6KWA, what about a post-field day write-up? I found these really useful for the following year. What worked, what did not work, what needs tweaking? That's a great idea.
It is a great idea.
Thank you for the suggestion. An after-action report, Philip weighs in with. Okay, here's Scout 75. Here's an interesting one. My pet peeve of field day is home stations holding a frequency calling CQ for field day. In the true spirit of the event, they should be using their high-end stations hunting weak signal field activators.
Exactly.
Here.
Exactly. You know, it never occurred to me when I was operating a home station to call CQ on field day.
Yeah, good for you.
Wait a minute, what?
But that's what they do. They get on there and they work it like a contest.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, there it is. Okay. Guys, we've gone on for an hour and 35 minutes here.
Holy
so
smokes.
That may be a record for us.
Holy smokes, it is, definitely.
We're going to get a quote from
It's all my
YouTube.
fault, too. It's all my fault.
Hey, Chris, you know what? I think we should wrap it up at this point. Any final thoughts from yourself?
No, I just agree with everything you're saying about go out and have fun. If you're going to do field day, go out and have fun with it. Have a plan, like you said. Be flexible with it, but always make sure you got the little tchotchkes that you just might need. And if you do that, you're going to be just fine. But again, the key is have fun. Don't get aggravated. Just go out and have fun.
Yeah. Hey, Tim, what are you thinking?
I think I'm been talked out of ever leaving the house again. What a pain in the neck. I just want to go play radio. That was the thing.
Well, here's the thing. While Tracy's in his tent, either getting rained on or sweating to death, I'm just going to be sitting in my truck.
Yeah, that's right.
No, it's a good plan. A real good plan.
Okay. Well, gentlemen, thank you very much for everybody who's attended the stream. Thank you very much for those who are watching this post-event. We thank you, really. I really do appreciate all of your support.
Actually, I want to put a quick thanks to those who actually, well, if subscribed to my channel, I've hit a level I never thought I'd hit. I've got almost 4,500 subs, which is
that's awesome.
These streams,
I'm shocked.
That's awesome.
Yep.
Good stuff.
Thank you.
And so, yes, thank you for bringing that up, Chris. So Chris's channel, Kilo 2 Charlie Juliet Bravo Radio, Tim's eBay store. Tim, and it's N9 SAB antennas, sells a tremendous line of wire HF antennas, rugged, fantastic for portable operation as well as permanent base station operation.
Too bad it's empty at the moment.
He can't keep up with demand, but how long? Somebody places an order today, Tim, what kind of backlog are you looking at?
If somebody placed an order today and contacted me and reached out to me and said, I need this by field day, I think they would probably get it on the Thursday or Friday before.
No.
Yeah. I would just caution anybody watching this from Canada, don't believe that, because we can't trust Canada Post.
Well, I sent your present priority mail yesterday, day before. Did you get the tracking number?
I got the tracking number. Thank you.
We could check the tracking number, and I bet you it's probably it's from here to. I imagine it's going to go ground through Detroit, cross the Windsor Bridge, and then make its way to you. So it's not like it's going to Europe or anything like that. So I think it'll be okay. But
fingers crossed.
That would be like 2-day priority mail or something like that. If somebody ordered me today, like I just got an email from a guy looking for some OCF dipoles. My first question back to him is going to be, when do you need it?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yep, fair enough.
And then
Okay,
of course,
good
we're going
stuff.
to redo everything this summer too. I want to redo everything. So
We
new
should
design,
talk. I got some ideas for you.
new stuff, and
That's fantastic.
redesigns of old stuff. I want to do a 100-watt micro Windham, or would be micro Windham.
Oh,
Yeah.
no.
So I'm studying binocular 43 ferrites, trying to come up with one that's actually compact and easy, rather than a big block. So we'll see.
Very cool. Very cool. Looking forward to checking that stuff out as it comes available. Okay, gentlemen, thank you very much, Chris, Tim. Thank you to everybody who tuned in. Really appreciate it. I got a 7-3 from Michael, VA3QAC. 7-3 to everybody. If you're participating in Field Day, I sure hope I can make a contact with you. I'd really love that. But otherwise, good luck.
If you were on Ham Radio Twitter, you could actually post out the frequency that you were on or the band that you were on.
Are you spooning around?
Could hunt for
Yeah,
you.
with Hunt and Pounce, it's a different thing.
Yeah.
Still.
Yeah, one day,
There's
fine day.
There's probably some hams out there. Boy, I sure would like to make a contact with the most organized Canadian ham radio operator in the world.
Who's that?
I don't. Maybe.
Have you talked to my wife? She will dispute that considerably. All right, we got to go.
Oh no.
Good night, everybody. Good night.
Bye.
Thank you. Have a nice day. And thanks for tuning in. 7-3.
7-3, everyone.